It's time for Common Man. Common Man. Challenge the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in. It's time for Common Man.
Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
Just keep battling. And just keep battling. And keep battling.
Quack, quack.
Welcome back to the spotlight, young man.
Yeah, Rosie. Lucky.
Thank you, Rio de Janeiro. Thank you, Havana. Thank you, Oslo. Thank you, Timbuktu.
You can't have it both ways.
Correct. What we've got here is failure to communicate.
And listen to Cooley.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
Game plan looks like.
No, I didn't like the way we were playing this sack, so I just told him, hey, we're going to live and die with me. Y'all, don't nobody like it, sit your ass down right here. Don't come out here, but we coming through me. You know, that's why I like Sam to come in. You know, I let them do their things for 3 quarters, come 4th quarter, bring it to the ticket.
Yeah, baby.
Rosa, you don't know nothing.
That is a cold-blooded connection.
He's the clown from Brown. He's the 4th in the North. This is the common man, Dan Cole.
And the Grum comes your way in 5. Well, actually 3, but if you think about it, 5 sounds like more than 4. 2-1. Greetings, good afternoon, and ack-ack-a-dack, and dack-dack-ack. To you and yours, I'm Common, he's Tennessee. This is the worst all-sports radio station in the country. So says a former employee who, funny, was fired from here while he was employed here. He thought we were the best all-sports radio station in the country. He's shown the door and suddenly becomes the worst. Maybe he was that good. I don't know. This is my La Brea Tar Pit, the fan. I'm a radio dinosaur, you see, and someday there will be archaeologists and paleontologists. You know, they sift through rubble. They do it all the time. And then they find something. They have those little whisk brooms. And then they blow on the dust because they don't want to damage what might be an something, the bone structure of a mastodon or a pterodactyl or a radio gadfly for that matter. And they'll say, ooh, look at what we stumbled across, the skeletal remains of a social commentator. And, hey, there's an archaic communication device attached to his cold, dead, rigor mortis-laden lips. We're here until 3, and then we turn it over to Big Ticket and JG. Well, I bet you're happy. You can't wait.
My team's there, yeah.
Can't wait to watch the Kansas. I couldn't be more, I don't want to say, I'm just so annoyed. I just am so tired of Kansas City. And I know you're not. You're amongst them. And there are many people.
I appreciate greatness.
Yeah, well, I do too. But, like, do you watch the same television show like I do, Rock Profiles, over? Is there a TV show you just watch over and over? No, you don't. After a while, you go, I'm not interested in seeing the same thing.
I eat the same things over and over and over again.
You're not interested in watching the same things over and over and over again, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And, it's the same thing with Brady. I remember when Brady in New England came back from that 25-3 deficit or 28-3 deficit, whatever it was, at the hands of the Falcons. And I say Falcons, not Falcons. I call them Falcons. And the next day, every single major market radio talk show host and all the websites and all the national talking heads and everybody was just breathless about it. Tom Brady is wonderful. Why can't you? What can't you appreciate greatness? It's like, well, yeah, I can. I just had enough of his greatness, and I was delighted when Brady. He was really good on the broadcast. He's getting a lot better. He did the Washington-Philadelphia game, and he's starting to loosen up, old Tommy boy, because he was just really, I thought, he just wasn't very good. He was sort of like, what would be my comparison? He was sort of like Sam Darnold against the Lions. Just wasn't really very good at all, but he's gotten much better. I just don't.
Romo, on the other hand.
Yeah, Romo, he's still struggles.
He's a hard listen.
Yeah, he is a hard listen. So is here's another guy I'm tired of, Nance. I'm tired of Jim Nance. He's very good at what he does. He's probably the best golf announcer there's ever been, right? His football is fine. I'm just tired of him. I don't want to listen to him anymore. People probably feel the same way about me. But they're still here. Last I checked, the report card is very good. But and again, you can say, well, the report card for National Football League television broadcasts are really good too. But they could have it. They could have.
It ain't the broadcast.
They could have sauce and they could have worst case scenario doing the games. People would still.
I actually would rather.
Yeah.
Listen to them do it.
Worst case, you could have worst case scenario, and they would still get plenty of viewership. The esoteric approach, once again, I'll take you back to, I think it was week 5, 6, 7, 8. Go back to any of those weeks, and every week we're looking at the power rankings from the National Football League, and every one of them, whether it was the Athletic, CBS Sports, Associated Press, NFL.com, ESPN. It didn't matter which one we looked at, Pro Football Focus. It was always Chiefs were the third or the fourth. By mid-season, they were considered like the 7th or 8th best team in pro football. And if you'll remember, Tenneby, every week I expressed my surprise to that. I'd say, well, why aren't they the number 1 team in pro football? They haven't lost yet. All they do is win. And the reasons or the explanations given to me were something to the effect of, well, this is just about this year. It's not about past years. You can't go on reputation. Well, they're I don't know when they lost their first game, but they're 5-1, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1. They're still winning football games like they always did.
Their losses to Buffalo, actually, about middle of the week.
They're not winning games at the rate that they or in the way they generally do by dominating people. Well, the score doesn't matter. Just at the end when it's 0-0-0, what's the score? And I kept insisting that the Kansas City Chiefs were the best team in pro football. Well, what do you think of the Kansas City Chiefs now? They are undoubtedly the best team in pro football. That could be challenged 2 weeks from now when the Philadelphia Eagles, oh, by the way, I've always been a defense first guy. I believe in that old adage, defense wins championships. Who's got the best defense in pro football? It's the Philadelphia Eagles. I actually tried to look up rankings, and I think touchdowns given up, it's San Diego. They've given up fewer touchdowns, but when it comes to touchdowns, yards, passing yards, this, that, yards, passing yards, rushing, Philadelphia is the best. And they showed it again. They do every week they play. And that could be a movable object, faces irresistible force. On big game Sunday, which I might boycott.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have any interest in either team. I mean, put it this way. I know this is going to come as a... I think there will be Viking fans that will be annoyed by this. If I had to pick a team I'm pulling for, it'd be Philadelphia. And I understand their fans are awful human beings, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not rooting for their fans. I'm rooting for the team. And I do like the Philadelphia team. Their offensive line is terrific. Saquon Barkley, he would look great in a Vikings uniform.
Looks terrific.
He would look great in a Vikings uniform. Alongside Derrick Henry, but obviously that's not going to happen and did not happen. And defensively, they do so many things so well that I do. Think about this too. We talked about this last year. I think they were like 11-1 or 10-1 last season, and then went on like a 4 or 5 game losing skid, and then they lost in the first game of postseason. So I know you can't take those games away, but other than that bad slump, and I don't know if it's ever been determined what caused it. If it was just, hey, that's just the way the football bounces. Whether there may have been injuries that I don't recall. There may have been, who knows, tend to be turmoil in the locker room. You never know. But they're now, what is their record now? Are they 16-2 or 17-2? What is their record? Do you know by any chance? They only have 2 losses. So they have 16 or 17 wins. You take away, though, when they were 10-1, I mean, that's... Now, I know they did lose that. Even throw in those last games last year. I think they finished, They finished 11-6 last year, 11-5. You combine that with this record. That's a really good team. Plus, they were in the big game the year before that. So they have been, most people want to say, well, Buffalo, and they've been the bridesmaid to Kansas City in the playoffs, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. They're matching their big game record. 0-4 in the big game. They lost their first one, I think it was a 91. They lost 4 consecutive, for those that don't know the history of the Buffalo Bills or the big game. They lost 4 consecutive big games. Jim Kelly was a quarterback back then with Thurman Thomas. And who was their big defensive guy? Bruce Smith. They were just such a good team. I think Marv Levy was a coach. Really good football team. Lost to Dallas twice, the Giants once, and Washington another time. But, Philadelphia, this is 2 of the last 3 years they've been in the big game, and they were bested by Kansas City 2 years ago. So it probably, over the last couple of years, these are probably the best 2 teams. You could make an argument for Detroit's regular season run and last year's postseason when they had the lead in the championship game. And then Buffalo, of course, and a couple of other clubs. But here we are. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about yesterday's 2 games. And but right now, Tenneby's got a keyword to try to put $1,000 in somebody's hand.
The fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword credit at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. That keyword is credit. Enter now, KFAN.com. Wild Wednesday is sponsored by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. Are here all season long. Listen every Wednesday through March for your chance to win tickets.
13-14 past Common Man program time now for Peak at the Purple, brought to you by Affordable Electric. When you're a family-owned business, you take extra care to do things right. After all, your name is above the door. Nick and Teresa at Affordable Electric are second-generation owners, and they take that responsibility very seriously. No job too small, and they pride themselves on being your old home specialist. If you need electrical work, whether it's commercial or residential, it doesn't matter to them. They'll do it all. Remember, they will not start work until they give you an estimate. Affordable-electric.com. Shockingly affordable. We saw what a real offensive line can do for you when they're playing at a high. The Chiefs' offensive line is really good, too, for those that aren't paying close attention. I think Philadelphia has 3 offensive linemen in the Pro Bowl this year. Kansas City has 2. Both their offensive lines are very efficient. They can run block and pass block. And that's the best way to win football games against a really good defense. Defense just wins championships, but if your offense can perform at a high level, then you got a chance to win, and it usually starts in the trenches. The Vikings, I think, admitted as much during their postseason, after the season news conferences. It was like the season ended on a. I remember if they lost on. Was it Monday night that their season came to an end, or was it Wednesday? They
Monday
addressed.
Night. Regardless,
I think it was they addressed the media on a Wednesday, and both Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, without getting into specifics, admitted that the interior of the offensive line needs some work. I decided to do some of their homework for them, Tenneby, and take a look at some of the best free agent offensive linemen in the National Football League. Again, difficult to secure these players. They're all free agents. I guess, when you're going to be something like $70 million on the cap, you'll have the money. Some of these players, for instance, Trey Smith is a right guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. Is he really going to want to leave a team that is going for its third consecutive big game? I don't know how many years he's been with Kansas City, but my guess is it's been a couple of years. He's probably got a ring or two already. He might get another. He's probably well compensated already, but he's as good as he gets, right? As a right guard. I don't think there's a better right guard in football. At least he's among them. That would be one. We've talked about the center position, Tenneby. You familiar with Drew Dahlman?
Sure. Let's go with it.
Plays center.
Actress, right?
He plays for the center for the Atlanta Falcons. 26 years old. He's got talent. His pass blocking efficiency ranks about in the middle of the league, but he's I have nothing against Garrett Bradbury, but I think Drew Dahlman would certainly be an upgrade over Garrett Bradbury, as would Ryan Kelly of the Colts, another center that the Vikings could look at. Looking for another guard? How about Will Freeze with the Indianapolis Colts? These are all players that are free agents. Oh, and one more for you, Tenneby. Patrick McCarry, guard for the Ravens. These are all players that would be an upgrade in the middle of the line for the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. And look, they're probably going to have to go the free agent route. I know that they have a first-round draft pick, 2 fifths in the compensatory third, and as you mentioned, it's really like a fourth-round pick because it's the last pick between the third and the fourth round. So if you got...
And that is, by the way, just projected. That's not official yet, but yes.
But let's just say it is, just for argument's sake.
It'll probably happen, yes.
So you got a 1, a 4, and a couple of 5s. Could you find offensive linemen there? Yeah, I mean, look, we could look back on every National Football League draft that's ever been conducted. I don't want to go back to the days of the 17 and 18 round drafts, but you could go back to all the years where it's been 7, and I'm sure you could find quality players, star players. I mean, Brady's always brought up, right? He was a 6th-round draft pick. Joe Montana was a 3rd-round pick. Those are the 2 most glaring examples of players that weren't selected in the 1st round or the 2nd round that turned out to be not just functional National Football League players, but 2 of the greatest to ever play the game. So you can find people, but finding offensive linemen, I think your chances are better in the 1st or 2nd round than they are in the 4th, 5th, or 6th, or 7th round. So this is where, now remember, Tenneby, you'd say, we talked about, well, okay, these, by the way, I didn't look any of those up. This is Alec Lewis. I'll just admit it. Alec Lewis did a piece on who the 10 best offensive linemen and defensive players that the Vikings should consider in free agency. I wouldn't recognize any of these guys if they walked into the room right now. But I'm just going to take Alec Lewis's word for it that these are high profile, if not cream of the crop, near the cream of the crop for offensive linemen, and certainly would be an upgrade over what we have right now. Now, everybody wants offensive linemen, so there'll be other people bidding for their services, including the teams they currently play in. And if you're playing for the Ravens, as we mentioned, the last right guard we mentioned, I don't think he's, he might like playing there. It's a great place to play. You're always in the hunt. You're winning football games. You have a chance to get to a big game. Same with the guy with Kansas City, right? But you got to start somewhere, right? And the Vikings, look, we've made a big deal about the much ballyhooed. Remember they did this survey, said, what's the best organization to play for? Minnesota came to the top almost every single player. They would love to play in Minnesota. Every guy that plays at Winter Park right now says it's the greatest play. It's basically football nirvana. It's football utopia. It's heaven on earth, as Belinda Carlisle once sang song. You didn't think I knew that song, did you? You probably don't even know that.
I know that song.
I was playing that song when it came out, I think 1988. Somewhere in the 80s, that song was released. But anyway, so we've got that going for us. We got an offensive wonderkind, the quarterback whisperer. We got so many options at quarterback. We have more options at quarterback than anybody. Now, they may not be the best option in the league. I still would like to have Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even Jalen Hurts and this kid for Washington. I'd like to have them. But we got, currently as we speak, Sammy Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, and Danny Dimes. So you've got a pretty good quarterback class, a great quarterback whisperer, a great play caller, great, a solid defense. If you're talking about defensive rankings, and defensive rankings can be misleading because it's just, points, yards, and, passing yards surrendered, rushing yards surrendered, and how many points you gave up. But in the list I looked at today, the Vikings are the 5th best defense in the National Football League. Looks like B-Flow's coming back. Everybody else is coming back. So it would be, I think, for most free agents, it's certainly worth listening to an offer. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, of course, the situation's pretty good here.
We need to upgrade, yeah.
There's money. There's already a pretty good
framework.
That would be a way to put it. Yeah, base, a foundation, I guess is what I was looking for. A good foundation of a team, and the greatest ownership group, and the greatest practice complex, the best culture in the world. Why can't we get some of those players? There's no reason we shouldn't be able to, other than they decide to go elsewhere to higher bidders. We'll see how that works. We'll take a break. We'll come back. That's Peek at the Purple, brought to you by affordable-electric.com. Back after this here on The Fan.
Come hang with the Common Man at 5 Iron Golf in Minneapolis.
Boy!
It's on February 6th. You can join the official, unofficial ambassador of Minnesota Golf for 5 Iron's newest location in North Loop from 5 to 7 p.m. Check out their simulators where you can play iconic courses, enjoy chef-inspired dishes, craft cocktails, and enter to win great prizes. Get the full details now at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
I think tomorrow I have a couple of... their secret right now, we've refreshed the spots. That's what we call them in the radio business. They're called spots. We got a great special going on spots right now for an advertiser out there. Next week, we're going to have a great special on stripes. Hey-oh! Old radio joke. Sorry about that. A dog with a note in its mouth could sell The Fan. We're going to have a lot of fun at the open house. February 6th, 5 to 7 on the North Loop. Your opportunity, Tennessee. Think about how lucky the listening public is. They're going to get an opportunity to verbally slap the ambassador on the back, touch the hem of his garment. I'll allow you to bend down, and you can take your thumb and your forefinger, and then I'll let you just touch the hem of my garment on the bottom of my pant leg. And you're going to get to hit knockdown, punch, cut, fade draws with me. We're going to have a closest to the pin contest with a lot of great prizes. It's a national one, too. The grand prize is a national prize. It's a golf trip. I just can't tell you. And I'll tell you more tomorrow. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
I like golf trips.
I know you do. I canceled all of our tea times in New Orleans. Think about this, Tennessee. How was I going to do this bit? I was going to actually do this bit last week.
Well, before you move on.
Yeah.
You are clearly a Lions fan.
The roar's been restored. Yep.
The station has always made it clear if one of our teams makes it to the big game, Stanley Cup final, World Series, NBA finals, that we'd get to travel and go on the road. Given you're a Lions fan, if the Lions would have made it, Would the higher-ups here have allowed you to go to New Orleans?
I highly doubt
They
it.
should. You're a fan.
Yeah, but we don't have tactical. Not enough of the listeners care. It's not so much our teams. It's to the listener. And there's not enough Viking fans that care about the Motor City Kitties. So I think
there's that.
I think that would have been shot down immediately. I was thinking about this last week. Do you know where the Friday football feast would have been a week from this Friday? Roseville. They put the plans in place. Well, they think ahead here at the Fan. You know what would have been last Friday, before the NFC Championship game? Apple Valley.
Ooh.
And the week before that, it was supposed to have been, I think, either Chaska or Chanhassen.
Chaska or Alaska.
Yeah, I think we had all this planned out. And
what a waste of time.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. That's why I don't think ahead. I just take it day by day. I don't get ahead of myself there. Tennessee, do you remember that game? I think it started out as $10,000 pyramid, then they increased it to $25,000 pyramid. When winning $10,000, not only will the contestants go, well, that's chump change. Nobody would tune in to watch somebody win $10,000. They had to bump it up because of inflation at $25,000, right?
Well, then it went to $100,000.
Is it $100,000 now? Do you have the din? Because I want to play. I have one topic for you, and I want you to see if you can. How long it takes you? Ready? Tom Kite, Sergio Garcia, Ernie Els, Miguel Angel Jimenez,
European golfers.
Thomas Bjorn, Bob May, David Duval.
Golfers that have finished up runner-up to Tiger Woods.
In major golf tournaments. Now, do it again. Josh Allen.
Runners up to Pat Mahomes.
Yes.
In big games.
Pat Mahomes is the Tiger Woods of the National Football League. How many did they beat the Bills last year in the AFC Championship game too? Or was it was Baltimore last year, right?
I believe so.
So Lamar, think if there's no Pat Mahomes, and there is, but if there isn't, Josh Allen's probably, because how many, have they been beaten twice in the championship game by Kansas City? I don't know how many. I know they've lost 4 times in postseason now to Kansas City. They're 0-4 in postseason since, I think, 2021. So that's at least one big game that Josh Allen would have participated in, and maybe 2. You're looking at the list. Because Pat's been in how many now?
So Kansas City beat Buffalo this year, Baltimore last year, Cincinnati the year before that.
Okay.
They lost to Cincinnati 4 years ago. They beat Buffalo in 2020.
So 2 times.
Or 2020, 2021.
Yeah. And were those in the championship game or just sometime?
These are AFC championships.
Okay,
and then 2019, Kansas City beat Tennessee, and then they lost the Patriots in 2018. So there's your last 7 in a row.
You do the if anybody out there is interested in doing the homework on that, the research, think of those quarterbacks that would have, Josh Allen certainly would have played in 2 big games if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes. Just like I remember it was the 2005 Masters where Chris DeMarco lost to Tiger Woods. That was they went to a playoff. That was the year of the famous chip from behind 16 where the ball ran all the way down and just hung on the lip for a second and then dropped in with the Nike logo. Perfect like that. You remember that chip?
Oh, yeah, of course. The most iconic shot I've ever seen.
If Tiger doesn't chip that in, Chris DeMarco's got a green jacket and he's going back. Think of how his life would have changed going back every year because you get a lifetime exemption. Doesn't matter where you are in your golf. I mean, Chris DeMarco doesn't. He might play golf somewhere, but he's not playing professional golf as far as I know. His career is over. But guess what? He'd still be able to every year go, I think I'll blow the dust off the old clubs, throw them in the trunk of the car, stick them over to Augusta National Golf Club, get a rental car, and drive up Magnolia Lane, and I get to play golf at Augusta National. Get to go to the Champions Dinner. Ernie Els would have been able to do that too. I think David Duval finished runner-up at the Masters to Tiger.
Man, did he have a fall from grace in the golf world.
Tom Kite, David Duval, Retief Goosen, and Chris DeMarco all finished runner-up to Tiger, as did Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, and Xander Schauffele, because I think they all finished tied for second place at 1 year. All of those guys could have won green jackets if it had not been for Tiger. And Pat Mahomes is the closest thing to that, right?
Well, it's funny, brother. I was literally thinking of this exact same thing last night. So it's kind of funny that we're on the same wavelength there, because many people have been labeling Josh Allen as a choker and Lamar Jackson as a choker, just as they were pretty much labeling Phil Mickelson a choker for a good chunk of his career, right? Correct. He just kept taking saying one of the best golfers in the world, but wasn't winning. Took him a while to win the Masters. It just happened that Phil played at a time when the greatest golfer arguably ever to play was going, and I think Josh Allen and Lamar are doing that exact same thing. Because I told you after Mahomes won his first big game, I said he's the best football player I've ever seen. He's going to be the best, and he's just going against the Tiger Woods of football.
Yeah, he is, and
Josh Allen was good yesterday.
Yeah, it was very good. Well, I've said this on numerous occasions. I'm not one who is want to, or it was a different word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it. I don't really have a lot of, I really feel sorry for that athlete. I mean, it's hard to feel sorry for Josh Allen. He's a multimillionaire, plays the game at the highest level. But when you see him on the sideline there, and you knew he knew.
Sure.
Everybody knew. I said it to my wife, even after Buffalo tied the game. I said to my wife, well, you know what's going to happen. She said, what's that? Kansas City is going to go down and score, and then they're going to force Buffalo to turn it over on that last drive of the game. Now, it wasn't a turnover. They didn't, it wasn't an interception or fumble, but they turned it over on downs, because that's just what happens. And who was the tight end, 86, when they decided to rush a corner? Romo did point this out. He says that Spagnuolo decided to blitz a corner when you really wouldn't expect a corner blitz at that time, according to Romo, and he came in untouched.
Yeah,
and Allen throws it from on his heels, just fires it down into a group of people. And the throw was actually brilliant because it was there for only one guy to catch. I mean, maybe there was some luck involved, but that tight end,
Dalton Kincaid,
he should have had that ball. That's one where, again, it's not perfect. He's down on a knee, falling.
You got to come back for it, yeah.
But it's hitting his...
You got to catch it.
Yeah, it's hitting your arms. We've seen guys make way more difficult catches. And again, usually the more difficult catches are made by the athletic wide receivers, right? Not necessarily big, dopey tight ends, but... he makes that catch. We might be talking about Buffalo making their first appearance in a big game, though I'm still not so sure. I don't remember how much time was left there. That if Buffalo scores, Kansas City doesn't go back down and score anyways, because we saw it happen.
Game, it felt like they could score at ease.
Yeah. Because we saw it happen a couple of years ago, the incredible 13 seconds to go in the game, and Kansas City went down the field. But and that's why I waited. I can't watch the Lamar Hunt presentation and telling Kelsey to all the fans to go get as drunk as Hooter Jones and watch him kissing Tate. I didn't want to watch any of this. Sorry, I did. But I did hang around long enough to see when the two quarterbacks and the two coaches always meet at midfield. It's tradition, right? You just always, the two quarterbacks have to, even though they never face each other on the field, they're both playing the quarterback position. Everybody knows quarterback position's the most important position in pro sports. And it was a very, they had showed for some reason, I don't know if it was a promo or something, they'd showed a clip of Allen and Mahomes in a previous midfield meeting at the end of a game, and there was much more talk between the two, right? There wasn't any talking here on this one. Allen wanted nothing to do with it. He was very gracious.
Yeah,
he went there and he listened to Mahomes. Probably gave him the hit. Hey, great game. You'll get a chance. You'll get there someday. Something like that, I'm sure. And
what's even more deflating for Josh Allen? Mahomes is 29.
Yeah.
He ain't aging out anytime soon. He's not going anywhere. I guess it's possible Andy Reid might retire at some point, but as long as Reid is there and Mahomes is there, You have to deal with that for a long time.
I sent you I forwarded you an email someone had sent me this morning with a preposterous statement nomination for Ben Leber. He apparently was on the morning show, and he said, Patrick Mahomes, I have it here somewhere. And again,
I actually had someone tweet it to me, so I could. Yeah, I haven't listened to it yet, but I could play the audio for you.
Oh, you do have it? Yeah, this is from a little before 7 o'clock this morning on the Power Trip.
The Mahomes type stuff, I wish they would sort of pump the brakes a little bit on his legacy already. Look, to me, this whole season has been about, really for 2 years in a row, it's been about their defense and it's been about their offensive play calling. Patrick Mahomes is a game manager. That's all he is to me. I don't think that he's any different than Brock Purdy at this point when it comes to being a quarterback. He's just doing what Andy Reid is calling. Yes.
He's better than Brock Purdy, but that's what Brock Purdy does. I mean, Shanahan, Reid, I think, runs sort of kind of the same. I mean, if you see how quick, and they made a point of it during the game last night, Romo talked about how quickly Mahomes gets rid of the football. They are just quick. They don't. Whereas, you can see the contrast, the differences between a Vikings offense under Kevin O'Connell and a Chiefs offense under Andy Reid are glaringly different. Now, Mahomes might go on to be the greatest quarterback of all time. You've already declared him that. So it's a little bit of an advantage to have Pat Mahomes. But if you'll notice, they don't generally do a lot of long downfield passes. He does get rid of that ball almost instantly. He gets the snap, he takes one step back and boom. One step back, boom. One step back, boom, boom, boom. Whereas here with the Vikings, it's drop back in the pocket and wait for Jefferson to get 30, 40 yards or 20 yards downfield, wait for Addison to break out in the clear. And then because of the middle of that offensive line isn't as sturdy as it probably should be, oftentimes we run into trouble that way. So I get what he's saying about game manager. I mean, it is, and I don't even think that's a rip. I've never thought of game manager as a negative. It's supposed to be a team effort, right? It's your core. You shouldn't have to have your quarterback win every single game by dropping back to pass and throwing long over and over and over again. There comes a time when that might have to be done, depending upon the specific situation, whatever the game, whatever the game situation calls for in any specific encounter, right? You and I have talked about this before, where each game you got to kind of treat as its own individual crossword puzzle or jigsaw puzzle, or is it called Sudoku? Sudoku.
Now you're throwing me off. Sudoku. Yeah.
Where you have your, each game is different because, some teams you play, they got a really good defense. They got a really bad defense. They can stop the run. They can't stop the run. Then on the other side of the coin, their offense is really good at throwing the ball or doing this or that. The other thing, so you put together a game plan specific for that team. And it seems like, the best coaches do that. I think they all try to do that. Some are just better at it than others, and some have better personnel than others. And when you're Andy Reid and you got Patrick Mahomes, it's probably easier to put a game plan together. But it does seem like they go with, if you want to describe it as a game manager type offense where they do it. Nothing wrong with that. You got a guy that can execute it perfectly, and he can buy time in the pocket. He can find, and he's got to make those sidearm throws a lot when you're playing that game. So I don't look at it as a negative towards Mahomes. I just look at it as
comparing to Brock Purdy to me is
that's it.
A little bit of a negative.
Yeah, but Brock Purdy did have 2 years ago when they went to the big game. He wasn't not as good as Mahomes. But he was obviously very good at managing a game, and he had a lot of great weapons. You got Kelsey, you got Kittle, and you can decide who you think is better, but they're both in the same conversation.
Both elite tight ends. Yeah.
You've got Deebo Samuel. Is that his name, Deebo?
Deebo, yeah.
I mean, he's just a unique player that you can do so many different things with. They had Ayuk for a long time. McCaffrey, a great running back. So they had a lot of the same sorts of things that Kansas City did, including a really good offensive line. Is it Trent Williams? Is that the guy for San Fran that's considered the best left tackle in pro football? And right now, Pro Bowl left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't recall his name, but he's going to the Pro Bowl. Their left tackle. And it's either their center or the right tackle or right guard that's going to the Pro Bowl as well. So you do have...
Brock has had much more to work with than Mahomes.
He has. But that doesn't mean that they're not the same type of quarterback where they make shorter passes, they throw this, they do that, they mix things together. And so they do. If you want to label them both game managers, that's fine. But one of those game managers is going for his third consecutive big game, and the other one has been to one and had some pretty good success. So that's just the way it is. And go ahead.
I was just say the reason Mahomes is now throwing all these short passes is because, I mean, that hasn't been his entire career.
No.
He hasn't been throwing 5-10-yard passes from the get-go. He was throwing the deep ball better than anyone at the beginning of his career, and he was so successful at it that defenses completely changed the way they defend him because they didn't want to give up the deep stuff. And he doesn't have Tyreek Hill anymore.
Right. Well, I think that's what Leber was saying. Is the past couple of years he's been more of a game manager, and for whatever reasons, you might be spot on as to the reasons why. But the preposterousness might be the comparison to Purdy. But to say he's a game manager isn't really that preposterous, and he's really good at it. It's just not everybody can do what he does. So,
yeah, I don't know. In terms of making short passes, and he does have a lot of first read passes, right? Where he's not breaking down a defense. He still seems to make the right pass every single time. He seems to be able to diagnose a defense. Believe me, I think Andy Reid's the greatest offensive mind in all of football. I'm not.
You've got a man crush on Pat. I get that.
I'm not taking away from Andy Reid's coaching because I think that is a huge reason for Pat Mahomes' success. Mahomes still has to go up there, though, and read a defense. Like, he can't have a coach talking to him with 7 seconds left on the play clock and figuring out where he's supposed to go with the ball. Yesterday, they decided to run with him a little bit more, which that's a great call by Reid, but Mahomes has got to have the athleticism to do it. He makes every throw. He's as clutch as any quarterback we've seen in terms of you got 2 minutes left in the game. He's got to get you down the field.
Yeah.
I get wanting to give Andy Reid lots of credit, and he should deserve credit, but when you start making Brock Purdy comparisons, that's where it's going to fall on deaf ears a little bit to me because he's the best quarterback I've ever seen. He's better than Tom Brady.
Unfortunately, you never got a chance to see Otto Graham or Sammy Baugh. That was the other.
That's what's the best I've witnessed with my own eyes. Yes,
if you would have saw Otto Graham, you would be.
And frankly, like his offensive weapons are good. They're not elite. Like I don't know why Kelsey was being interviewed after the game yesterday because he had 2 catches for 19 yards. Like that's solely you're a big celebrity and you got Taylor Swift.
That's why he's a big celebrity.
Yeah. But he had no business being interviewed after that game. He had 2 catches for 19 yards. He had some good blocks. I get it. After that, their number 1 wide receiver has been out for the year, and Rashee Rice.
It sounds like you're wanting to idolize and pedestalize.
The receivers they're counting on are DeAndre Hopkins, who's past his prime, Xavier Worthy, who's a rookie and is kind of like gadget guy, and he's very good at it. He's good at that role, but he's just a role gadget guy. Juju Smith-Schuster was on the scrap heap. Anyone could have gotten him. Justin Watts, like these aren't big name wide receivers that he's making look very good.
All right. In other words, you're idolizing and pedestalizing Pat, and well, you should.
I will not hear Pat Mahomes slander.
Yeah.
I'm not going to listen to it.
I got another.
He's a brilliant football player.
I have another 100. Can I use that?
And Josh Allen would agree.
Can I use that? Pat Mahomes is a brilliant.
That's a take. That's a hot take for you, isn't it?
That's a hot take. I didn't realize that.
Some people think he's Brock Purdy-like, so I'm going to fight against that.
Let me. I have another $100,000 pyramid puzzle for you. Ready?
Hold on.
KKFN 104.3, The Fan, Denver. WBZ 98.5, Boston. WXYT 97.1, The Ticket, Detroit. KTCK 1310, The Ticket,
Stations
Dallas.
ranked higher than KFAN.
WEEI Sports Radio 93.7, Boston.
Stations that have won Marconi.
Yes, correct. Stations that have beat KFAN for the Marconi for best sports talk radio station.
We're the Josh Allen of Marconi's.
We are the Josh Allen of Marconi's. We really are. And that might even be giving us too much credit. We'll take a break and come back. Tennessee's got a little 5-3-4 for us with a tease, I'm assuming.
The barn is back.